So, wow, this is the audience. I want to start my demonstration today first with a video. Why I want to start this with this video? We have started to develop HVAC system or CAD systems 40 years ago. We have started to develop our own CAD kernels, and in the year 2000 we have switched to the A company. Then we also used the LD version at that time, and the problem was that when it was closed, we were searched to another CAD kernel we can use. So we found BricsCAD with the version V9 at that time as a cost-effective software on the market, also with the availability to, yeah, sometimes I'm not an English native speaker, so I'm also going to have to try. With good performance, with the possibility to use an AX or a BricsCAD file or to convert our old software in a very fast way. What you see now is the logic we use starting from the beginning. So the logic in our system is always a line, because nothing is easier to draw than a line. To generate a system for MEP or for heating, ventilation, air conditioning, you have a line as a placeholder for the pipe or for the duct. You have a load at the end. It could be a radiator, ventilation outlet, a sanitary object. And you have a starting point defining the system, the medium, the material parameters. So this is the logic, the idea behind our software. After the movie, I want to use two models you have seen already in BricsCAD BIM demonstration yesterday. One is the Twisted Tower. The person from Singapore before said the crazy one. And I want to use the smaller single-family house or the villa to show the proposal or the functionality of the BIM combination with all the calculations. So let's start and finish it. So in this case, you can see the spiral tower designed by during the BIM presentation. If you have a system like this, it's sometimes a little bit, it needs a little bit time to organize it. And if you have large buildings, it's also necessary that many people can work at the same time. So with BricsCAD BIM, and also with the possibilities of BricsCAD with external references and so on, it's quite easy to find a solution. So as an example, I will catch now one floor. So we always try, as a side explanation, we always try to use the latest functions available and also the latest APIs available in BricsCAD BIM. So we also use, for example, the floors and so on. So it's quite easy, for example, to switch. I don't know, I want to work in the 25th floor. So 25th floor, yes. The point is why I use in this floor. Yesterday we also heard, I think Mr. Kaiser was it, we need 3D models. Everybody is talking from 3D, but at the end I need a 2D plan view. So if you model a system like this, there is only the way to say, make everything in 3D. We see it also here for the timeline and so on, for the mass lists, for the calculations. But at the end, I need a 2D plan view. So I've switched to the plan view, and I use my BricsCAD standard interface, for example, to use a wireframe mode, to go to the top view and see the problematic of this building. At the outside area, you have always the same. You call it Blockify, for example. So if I switch maybe to the next floor and to the next floor, and I go on to the next floor, I can see the problems of the building. Outside I have the same. I can use external references, internal not. So I have to do it in the composition of the building. Why BricsCAD can help me? So now I can see there's an unfinished element. I use the quad, for example, to modify, to open this external reference. You can see the same as we had before in the movie, in the video. I use standard lines as an element. I have load points at the end. I have a starting point at the beginning. And also here I use the possibility or the functions of external references to switch the plan view on and off. how to design a system. So if I have an existing element like a block, I can use the block. I use standard CAD functions like copy, for example, CO. Normally I have a German one, so I have to think in English. I can place the element. I need a connection. So I switch in the user interface, I activate the connection function, I select the line. But at the end, if I select the element, you can see it's only a line. Also, the structure browser is quite interesting because we are using also this API at the moment. So all the elements are defined automatically as the correct ventilation element to the correct floor, to the correct building, that at the end also the IFC interface can be used to export and correct and real ventilation duct into the IFC interface. But now, let's try to get a ventilation duct, and this is the easiest. At the point I select only the system, I wait a second, and depending on the lines, the load point at the end and the starting point, the software is calculating a duct. It's not only a drawing, it's a calculated duct. That means that the dimension of the duct depends on the flow rate, because the load point at the end, the ventilation outlet, knows 200 cubic meter, 300 cubic meter, and you can see an Excel logo opened because also the calculations are done in the same step. So now, instead of the line, I have a ventilation duct. I know all the values, and the elements are also implemented into the building as a flow fitting, flow setting, and so on. If I close it, now the system continues, so I have to reload the, you've seen the functionality yesterday too, to reload the system, to get it connected into the plan view, and now we have to connect the floor to the core, and there's the same logic than before. I have a load point, but this load point is connected to the other drawing. So the load point knows automatically the flow, and I do the same step than before, but maybe without an Excel list. So this was the first step I want to show you, how is our software implemented in Bricsys, and what is the way of working. So now the connection to the core is done, and I can go forward in the next step. So this was the first part of my presentation. The maybe more important part, so I go to recent files and open the Villa, is how to use the BIM model for walls, for windows, for doors, and also what is the result at the end. So if I use this example, it was done maybe yesterday from the colleagues, but it's the same building. I use a functionality, it's called define or acquire room. Normally, if I have no BIM model, a few weeks, a month ago, I have to use polygons to do this. Now, I only press one button to say, please, I want to use BIM rooms. I press OK. At this point, the entire model is readed. I can see all the rooms of my model, which rooms I want to use. I can activate. If I say OK, everything is done. So to make a load calculation, to generate, we call it room book, because the room book is the basic of all our calculations, will be generated automatically from the BIM model without doing anything. To check this a little bit, maybe I switch the shading mode and I switch off the walls to have a little bit better view. We use our room manager, we call it room manager. Takes a few seconds. The room manager is used to do visualizations. So I can visualize one room, another room, a second room, or maybe all rooms of a floor. And now the important thing is the color should help the user. We are visible people. If you have different colors, you can analyze it graphically. You can find out mistakes. So if I have different wall types or identical wall types, I can see it in the same color. But the same can be done. So if I use, for example, to the office room, look down at the bottom. I move it up first. There I can see a transmission load, a ventilation load, a norm heat load. The calculation is done automatically because the BricsCAD BIM room knows the connected wall and surface. The wall knows the connected composition. Depending on this, I have a transmission load through the wall, also the window, according in order of the glassing type and so on. And depending on this, now I also want to check if there's something maybe problematic. So we only switch in another view, and I can say, please show me the transmission loads of the building. So I can see everything is green. One area is a little bit yellow, so there's a huge glassing facade, more transmission load. Show me the U values, show me maybe what is the internal wall, what is the external wall, what are the room temperature I was using, and what is the watt per square meter value I have to cover by the heating system. So this is automatically found from the BricsCAD BIM model into the calculation. Okay, this was static calculation. I've used the coldest temperature outside, the hottest maybe inside. To go one step above, it's also possible to make building simulations. So what is the difference? For a standard load calculation, you take one temperature, maybe the coldest of the day, and you calculate this value. For a building simulation, you use an entire year, and you need the temperatures hourly. This you can get from some meteorologic stations, from software called maybe Meteonorm or something else, and you need the simulation kernel. To develop this, it's the work for a life. So the simulation kernel was not developed by our company itself. It's one of you can nearly say only one interface we have, and it is the interface to a simulation kernel called Energy Plus, developed by University of Berkeley. So to do the simulation, we have another type of room manager. So you can see I have 4 different areas. I have zones, I have rooms, I have schedules. So if I take a room, I move it to a zone. That means the zone is for me the main thing. If I have many office rooms, I don't want to define all the internal loads, all the schedules when it's heated and not in one step. At the other side, at the project, I can select my weather information. So for example, London Gatwick or America, whatever. Maybe New York or something else. And the zone needs a profile. So according to, at the profile, is defined when the room is heated, when the heating is switched off, what is the temperature, at what time, what day is switched on, what day is switched off. And now automatically in the background the simulation is done, and I can go to the results. So for this kitchen room, the calculation was done, and I can see the maximum load is 6,500 watt on somewhere in June, 30 of June in summer. Why? It was a very large room, and I have a glassing facade direction to the south. So I can go forward to say, okay, what happens if I plant a tree, some shading areas, change the windows and so on. Or what is on the coldest day, what is on the hottest day maybe, the period for the day, what is the day curve of the room temperature. So also these calculations can be done automatically. At the end, in order to the calculation, you get radiators. You can see here. And now we're at the same position that we started the ventilation module. They are placed by the software under the window. You can do it, you can manage, you can manipulate. You connect the radiators to the line. So I select my 2 radiators. I say this is the flow, this is the return. So I was a little bit too fast. Confirm, flow and return. No. Let's do it in a plan view. You can see everybody wants to try to model in 3D, but sometimes it's easier to do it in 2 dimensions. Connect. Flow and no. Let's try it with the difference so it's easier. I try to hurry up. I have exactly 40 seconds. So. Done. We have only connected 1. And so at the end, I start the calculation process. I select my windows, or with the window my system. The calculation is started. The load at every position is calculated. Because of the starting point, the software knows that the medium is at the moment water. I have a density, a velocity, a heat capacity, so I get a pipe dimension, and at the end, I get a mass list and a physically correct calculation. And last but not least, we have only one module, but this I only say in a very short step. This is we use for virtual reality, but not in case of doing some interior or exterior designs. We use it mainly for maintenance or to check the ability to mount the ducts. It's also implemented directly in BricsCAD. You have one button you have to press, and the entire BIM model of BricsCAD, or also a solid model, is sent directly to the VR kernel. So I open it only one time. It takes less than 20 seconds. You can see as an example, it's only a ventilation kernel. I went to the module, I press one button. It takes a few seconds. You can see the green button. An Unreal Engine opens, and I get the model directly in the kernel, and I can go fly or go through my building to look if I have some collisions or problems where I can check something. Flight mode, Shift W. So that's all.